Perception Architecture Radio.
Hello, welcome to Perception Architecture Radio. This is a podcast about the relationship between the mind, the body, belief systems, and reality. So it's more a show about perception than it is about architecture, and how when we change our relationships with reality by deconstructing and reconstructing belief systems and cultural narratives, the reality we experience begins to change. So basically anything to do with that and living better and becoming more you for the better of you and everyone else. That's most of what this is about. I suppose more than anything it's really me trying to understand myself better, and so as I do that then maybe other people can learn some stuff too. Just figuring stuff out really, not that complicated. It'll be like one big long ongoing conversation, so thanks for your time, thanks for being here, and thanks for getting involved. I hope you enjoy the show. Hello, welcome to Perception Architecture episode 3B. This is Dan Brule. This is the continuation of the conversation with Dan Brule, and it's all about the breath. This second conversation has a lot more kind of practical tips and a lot more things that you can actually practice by yourself when it comes to the breath. And even at the end of the episode, we go into like a small meditation. Yeah. I guess it's kind of like a breathitation, meditation of the breath, meditation. We talk about a lot of things. There's a lot of good science in there. And yeah, then at the end, we'll run through and we'll just talk about some of the things that we talked about in the conversation. So it's very good. So no more talking from me, more talking from Dan and me together, and breathing, that too. So enjoy.
That's like the formula. Powerful breathing, complete relaxation in a field of detailed, heightened awareness. And you're going to heal something. You're going to have a breakthrough. You're going to have a transformation. It goes with the territory.
Yeah, I really like that in your book. That kind of, I saw it as a pyramid. There's like, I think I even made a graphic for it at one point to try to describe it better. There's the relaxation, deep breathing, and then the conscious awareness as well. And you know that once you get the two together and you start to really, it's like you're trying to see how deeply you can relax into the intensity and ramp up the intensity even more, and then see if you can actually go a little bit deeper and relax a little bit further into that. It's quite interesting that this description, because I think one of the things I noticed when I had back pain, and there was a specific point in my back, and I was going to ask you about this, if you get people to focus on something specifically. But one of the things I found, like paradoxically and very bizarrely relaxing, was if I just allowed the kind of the visualizations or the imagery of the pain, like the chaos of the pain, like all of the blood and all of the things, kind of how chaotic the pain could be if I just allowed those visualizations to manifest while I continue to concentrate on the breathing and focus on the breathing. So it's almost like allowing the chaos of everything to fully unfold while staying centered and staying relaxed in the middle. And I'd wondered, like, if you get people to kind of focus on something, or if you get them to kind of, if there's some visualization that you get them to do with when they're specifically in trouble like that, or focusing on pain.
Yeah, it's resistance. We have to watch for resistance. And that relaxation, the letting go, is the opposite of resistance. And developing the ability to literally breathe into the feeling where the pain is, and create a sense of expansion and relaxation, or at least a sense of relaxation around that place or into it. And you find just the right speed or rhythm to penetrate that feeling, and you can start to move and dissolve it. And you may have an intuitive prompting to move a certain way or stretch while you're breathing. Now your intuition is helping the process. And, you know, it's a knot. You untangle it. I think I agree with Mikhail Ryabko, the Russian Systema martial arts guy, that all pain is fear, period. That's very simple. Pain is fear, end of story. Now let's work with the fear. And it may not be conscious. It might be cellular, biological, might be emotional, might be select. But let's deal with what it is. It's fear. And you know when you're afraid because you can't relax. You're trying to control everything. You know, you're holding yourself back or you're resisting something. So there's no confusion about it. You might try to like, oh, you know, I'm not really afraid. I just don't like it. No. Fear is fear is fear. And it doesn't matter whether it's fear of this or fear of that, or it's the same thing. So if we get the breath to open and flow in the middle of a state of fear or pain, that opening and flowing of the breath is going to displace the pain and the fear. That's just how it happens. Now, you might have to practice to make it really happen, but it doesn't take that much practice. And in a breathing session, you know, we use the breath to activate fears, discomfort, reactions in the system, and then you adjust the breathing and you navigate through and you heal and you release. So we can go as fast as we want or as slow as we want. We can have our own pace. You breathe every day, you practice regularly, and you, layer by layer, you clear away everything that's in your way. And it's the work, it's inner work. It's what we're supposed to be doing. And until you arrive at a place where you can feel clear and creative and loving and calm, no matter what's happening inside of you and no matter what's happening around you. For me, I think that's freedom.
Pretty great.
And we can get there with the breath.
There's something interesting about so having looked at the Wim Hof method and like these more intense types of breathing, and I remember reading in your book when you went to and this was another thing I wanted to kind of pick up on as well. There's some really fascinating techniques you've got in your book, and they all seem so different. So on the one hand, you've got the Wim Hof method, which is like, seems like hyperoxygenation, hyperventilation, super intense. And then at the other end of the spectrum, you've got the Buteyko method, which is, I kind of had a similar reaction to you that you wrote in your book when I first discovered it. I was like, it sounds a bit like nonsense. You know, what do you mean not breathing or breathing really shallow? But I tried it a few times and I, you know, off your recommendation. And so I tried it a couple of times. And one thing I noticed was that my sinuses started to clear up really quickly. I was really, having done a lot of kind of martial arts training and stuff like that, I have a blocked nose from being punched in it so many times. But I found that after I did the Buteyko method, that started to clear up my sinuses. So it really seems like it's not one specific way that you have to breathe, but almost like these different breaths can kind of counterbalance all of the different things in the body.
Yeah, you know, I mean, I have 3 basic questions I ask myself. I don't really ask them consciously anymore. They're kind of integrated into my sensing of the person. But basically, what is the person's level of health? Because you're going to do something with a peak athlete who's in peak physical condition. You're going to do something different for a frail, elderly person who can't even turn over in bed, right? So what's your level of health? That's going to decide where do we start, what direction do we go, what do we focus on? And depending on where you are in that spectrum, we get your foot in the door, you start to practice based on your level of health. The second question is, what's your degree of skill? Have you practiced breathing and meditation? Have you done yoga or martial arts? Are you a singer? Have you had breath training of any kind? That's going to help us decide what to look at, where to go, where to create balance, and so on. And the third question is, what do you want to achieve? What do you want? What's your intention? You want to see God, or you just want to get rid of your headaches? You want to have better balance, or you want to be a better public speaker? Well, an answer to that question is also going to give us, where do we start? What do we focus on? Where do we go? So There is no cookie stamp kind of breathing technique. You know, it would be great, one size fits all, but we're also unique. So what we do is we learn some fundamentals that are universal, and then we match and mix and apply them uniquely according to each of our own process, our own level of development, our own goal, and what we want to achieve. So yeah, right. There's a whole range from, well, Wim Hof is a good example. Breath holding, hyperventilation. Breath holding, hyperventilation. Two ends of the spectrum. And when you hyperventilate, you bring up a whole lot of feelings and sensations and emotions that you can practice relaxing into them. Practice getting comfortable with them, and then you grow and you heal. And then when you hold your breath, you produce a different package of feelings and sensations and emotions and reactions. And when you get comfortable with those, you grow, you heal. So Wim's got a great no-brainer technique. It's not new. It's an ancient yogic approach. Hyperventilation, breath holding. Hyperventilation, breath holding. And you get the best of both worlds. And now some people, depending on who they are, what they do, their health, and so on, they're going to lean towards one side of the spectrum, and other people, or the same person at a different time, is going to lean in the other direction. It's like sympathetic and parasympathetic. Sometimes we need to wake ourselves up and adrenalize and charge ourselves, and other times we need to calm down and rest and recover. And so you adjust the breathing to suit your need in the moment.
So what's with the kind of the intense breathing, as far as I could tell, as far as I could kind of conceptualize it, and I wanted to get your opinion on this. It seems like the intense breathing is flooding your body with oxygen, which is, or flooding your blood at least with oxygen. But then what I was hearing from researching the Buteyko method is that you need a level of carbon dioxide. You need to increase the carbon dioxide to help the oxygen to get from the blood into the cells. And so you're training with the breath holding, you're training your body to become more efficient with this excess oxygen that it's got. And so the combination of the two seems to work very well.
Yeah. CO2 is the trigger for, as you mentioned, releasing the blood and releasing the oxygen from the hemoglobin. It's required a high CO2 level to prompt the releasing of the oxygen. But most people, unless you have some pathological condition, your blood is already saturated with oxygen 98%. So, what's one more percent isn't going to make that difference. So on that level, most people need to get comfortable with the air hunger. They need to tolerate higher levels of CO2, because a high level of O2 and a high level of CO2, wow, now you got something. And so getting comfortable with air hunger, which is the Buteyko method, just gradually and gently under breathing shallow, breathing light, only through the nose, practicing long pauses, lengthening the exhale. This is increasing our tolerance of CO2, and the CO2 level rises, and it triggers all this vasodilation, which allows, so these little when you hyperventilate, you blow off carbon dioxide, you constrict all the microvessels, right? So this vasoconstriction occurs. It's even used as a technique in the emergency room for head injury patients. You hyperventilate them because the hyperventilation blows off the CO2. The lowering of the CO2 creates all this constriction in the walls of the arteries and veins and so on, and that preserves blood. It stops the leaking of the blood into the brain. So when those microvessels dilate, then all the blood can get delivered to the tissue, and all the gases can do their work in the exchange. And CO2 is the key to that. The higher the CO2 level, carbon dioxide becomes a vasodilator. And those opening of all those microvessels allows the blood to leach into the tissue and the oxygen to feed the cells. And if you hyperventilate, you can actually stop the supply of oxygen to your brain, reduce it by 60% in 1 minute, just by hyperventilation.
Wow.
So there's a lot of
That's why
hype.
people get lightheaded and dizzy, is it?
Yeah, that's right. And so the oxygen isn't really the thing. It's just super oxygenating your cells. It's a little bit of, quite a bit of hype around that, because actually it's the CO2. We already have 90% oxygen. It's in the blood. And now what prompts that oxygen to get into the tissue and the cells? It's the CO2 level. So the more we can tolerate high levels of CO2, which means practicing a pause after the exhale, getting comfortable with those feelings of air hunger, and you tolerate that, you increase your capacity, your CO2 raises, and you get all these benefits. Somebody who has asthma and they use those inhalers, that's a steroid. And what the steroids do is they dilate those bronchial vessels. Carbon dioxide will do that. CO2 will do that if you can tolerate the symptoms that come with high CO2. And that's just training, gentle, patient training, where you extend the pause after the exhale. Inhale, exhale, pause, and then rest in that pause, count the seconds, stay relaxed, and then see how long you can comfortably hold the pause. And then every day or 2 days, you add 1 second. So after 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 weeks, you're up to a comfortable pause of 30, 45 seconds, 60 seconds, and asthma is a thing of the past. And in the process, you find that your performance, because you can tolerate high CO2 level, you can manage under intense situations much easier.
Yeah, that's interesting. So when people, because there's hyperventilation is like an interesting topic, because obviously there's a part where you mention in your book and you talk about how hyperventilation, when done involuntarily, is like a negative thing, but when you actually do it consciously, it can help you in a lot of ways. And I know when we do our kind of breakfast breathing exercises at breakfast, sometimes it's like there's a lot of people get this. I think the technical term for it is tetany, where they get the kind of the we call it the claw, this kind of thing going on, or it's tension around the lips. What's going on there when that's happening then?
Those are symptoms of hyperventilation. So hyperventilation's gotten kind of a bad rap. It's too bad. It's almost like a bad word, but it means overbreathing. And overbreathing means upsetting the chemistry in your body, blowing off too much carbon dioxide. And these symptoms of tetany is a symptom of that. By itself, it's not dangerous. It's interesting. People do that in the process of learning. It's kind of like if you fall and scrape your knee or bump your head when you're learning to ride a bicycle or when you're learning to walk. It's not the point of walking or riding a bike to scrape your knee or bump your head. It can happen in the process of learning. You wouldn't use that as an excuse not to keep trying to learn to walk, even though it might happen. So yeah, hyperventilation can happen in the process of learning to breathe. It's nothing to worry about. It's interesting. It's unusual. And it's a good practice to just not be afraid of your own body, not be afraid of your feelings. Remind yourself that you're safe. It's a very valuable experience. And I cannot produce symptoms of hyperventilation anymore. I mean, I'd have to try really hard, but I can breathe very deep and very fast for, an hour or more without triggering any symptoms of hyperventilation. So that's why when we teach the connected breathing, we focus on the relaxing of the exhale, letting the exhale go, not blowing, not pushing. That helps us to keep in balance. And then the O2 level rises, the CO2 level rises, our consciousness gets more heightened, our body gets more relaxed, and we end up in a kind of a peak state. We just might have to go through a little discomfort to pop through to that breakthrough, but small price to pay, a temporary period of weird feelings to get a tremendous release or to contact this ecstatic energy. Wow, I mean, it's very small price to pay. And it's just an indication of skill level. When people trigger the hyperventilation symptoms, it's just a skill thing, not a problem. You know, you're not hitting the bullseye, but you're in the target. So just refine, adjust, practice more relaxation, tune in, adjust the breathing pattern a little more, and you'll develop this ability to navigate all that stuff.
Yeah. After a big session I did once, there was a woman who came to me and said, you know, I didn't want to go into that breathing. I was really kind of afraid to do it. And then she kind of had a realization. It's like, I just realized that I'm afraid of my own body. Like I'm afraid of my own, I'm afraid of my own physiology. And it's like, yeah, right. That does seem to be what's happening. But
we were little children, we were overflowing with energy. And we didn't think anything about it, but it bothered other people. And then we learned how to begin to stifle and suppress and block that energy. And then it becomes stuck in our system. And years later, it's holding you back. It's holding you down. So we need to recover from some of those early strategies of breath holding, early strategies of contracting or withdrawing or escaping or avoiding, and you know, go back and revisit those things and clear it all up so it's not one more thing getting in your way. And the amazing thing about the breath is the breath takes us to those things. We don't have to dig for them. We have to look for them. They come up naturally in the process. And so as they come up, we use the breath, we use awareness, we use relaxation, and we navigate that, we release it, we clear it. And it's a very natural, organic process.
Yeah. And so one of the other things that I wanted to mention, and I love this, you're like a pro yawner. I think one of the really interesting things I read in your book was the thing on yawning.
Yeah.
And, like, I'd never considered it. And it's like the way that you describe it, these big old luxurious yawns. And it's like, you can't even talk about yawning without it kind of having that, without yourself wanting to do it. But can you describe a bit about yawning? Because I really like that.
Yeah, you know, neuroscientists cannot find any other single activity that lights up more parts of the brain, that has more neurological benefits. It's just astounding. And that nature makes us yawn, and even seashells yawn, reptiles yawn, everything yawns. And so nature wouldn't make us do that if it wasn't really important. So I encourage people to yawn more, squeeze all the juice, exaggerate it. And I teach people to combine a sigh of relief with a yawn, and to combine circular breathing with a yawn. So you trigger the yawning reflex, and something opens in the throat, and then you breathe in and out through that opening that the yawn produces. You stretch and you move and you enjoy the yawn. You double down on what the yawn is trying to do in us. You make it more conscious. It's a purging, it's a detoxing, it's a recharging, it's a coming back into balance. There's the list of things that yawning is associated with that is mind-bogglingly cool. And the lesson is, you can't yawn too much.
Yeah, I can imagine the amount of people that have been listening to this now, and all have been yawning at the same time, even me when I was listening to you speak.
Yeah. And if you meditate for a moment or two before you yawn, spend 30 seconds, a minute, sense everything in your body, sense your body as energy, tune into your body, and then make yourself yawn 3-4 yawns in a row for a minute or so, and then go back and meditate and notice what's changed in your system. It's unmistakable. We feel lighter, we feel clearer, we feel more alive, more awake, more energized, more relaxed. So the proof is in the pudding.
Yeah.
We just got to practice and observe and track the subtle changes in our energy.
Well, you have a ton of interesting techniques in the book, and another one that I found really curious, and somehow this one got me as well, is like you inhale while saying exhale, and then you exhale while saying inhale. And it's a strange thing, but it really does seem to kind of detach you from the body. I was really fascinated by the effect of that, and especially combining it with like a coherent inhale to the count of 4 and then exhale to the count of 4, or like a box breathing thing or something like that.
Yeah,
Really
you're talking about D-reflexive breathing, also called Krishna's Kriya Yoga. And the idea is to be mentally inhaling while you're physically exhaling, and mentally exhale as you physically inhale. And the meditation is that light is coming in as air is going out, and light is going out as air is coming in. So light and air traveling the same path at the same time, but in different directions. And that little cue, while I'm breathing in, mentally we're thinking out, out, out. And while I'm breathing out, exhaling the air, mentally we're thinking in, in, in. And it's called D-reflexive breathing because it breaks that body identification reflex that we were born with, that we needed to stay safe. If we live in the East, they call this Sat Chit Ananda, state of consciousness and existence and bliss. And we're at one with the universe, and we're at one with the trees, and we're at one with the tiger. We're going to end up in the tiger's belly. So we have to develop a sense of a separate ego long enough to grow, and then we can drop it. And dropping the ego becomes really difficult once you've solidified it and gotten somewhere. So this D-reflexive breathing softens that. Because, when the air comes in, what's our experience? The air is coming into me. And when I breathe out, what's my experience? The air is going out of me. Well, wait a minute. Who is this me? The air is coming into my lungs, my body, and out of my body, not me. Who is this me? And that's more related to consciousness. And so we transcend the ego. That's a beautiful breathing technique for detaching from the body and connecting to the energy that fills our body and surrounds our body, and it fills other people's bodies. So we're coming to a deeper level of existence. We're connecting with the energy and not identifying with a little separate piece of that we call I or me or my ego. So D-reflexive breathing, that's exactly what the purpose of it and the result of it is, that we get a greater sense of ourselves, not so caught in our own little ego. Exactly.
Yeah, it was a really great technique. I remember practicing it on the tube in London and just being completely absorbed in it, and then feeling like, wow, I feel like I'm almost melting into the environment here. This is really kind of a sensational experience. It was quite something.
It's beautiful. And we can do real powerful spiritual breathing techniques with just that intention. So for example, on the exhale, we snap the exhale loose, sigh of relief, and you have this intention to drop down, to fall inward, to move towards your source, your center. During the exhale, it's like the exhale should take us to our center. And at the same time, we're radiating. So we become more spacious, and at the same time, we become more central focused. And so it's a beautiful state of being very grounded in our own body, very centered in our own self, and at the same time connected and open to, humanity, existence, life, nature. And that's a beautiful experience. When people feel it, they want more of it. You feel part of the universe, it's quite beautiful.
So, I want to come back to this. I quickly want to go back to what you mentioned about snapping the exhale and letting go of this practice, because I really feel like this is an important one. And when you talk about that, you're not talking about, you don't, how do you do that then? It's not like you kind of lengthen the exhale, or is it just like a sigh of relief?
Right. You lengthen the inhale. You make the inhale twice as big as normal. And that creates this extra stretch, this extra expansion. And then when you let go, the elastic tendency in the muscles, atmospheric pressure, gravity does the exhale for you. The exhale feels like a reflex. You don't blow, you don't push, you don't control it, you don't let it out slowly, you don't hold it back. You snap it loose, you dump it out, you set it free, you let it go. And you get really good at that. snapping the exhale loose, dumping it out, setting it free without pushing, without blowing. It's a little skill. Once you get it, then when you master that releasing of the exhale, you'd be surprised how quickly you can release fear or pain or tension, or confusion or anything else. So that's a primary skill that I teach, that I encourage people to master. Make the inhale twice as big as normal. Feel the extra stretch, the extra expansion, and then don't blow the breath out. Just let go. Allow the breath to release. And when you let go of the breath, let go of all your muscles, let go of all your joints. So nothing is holding the breath back. It's free to pour out. And then you just keep cycling through that again and again and again. And you're going to start releasing deeper and deeper stuff, older and older stuff.
Yeah.
It's that part of it's the ability to let go. Mm-hmm. And if we can let go, a lot of our problems, they go. We let go of them at the same time. We don't have to work on them. We don't have to understand it. You don't have to struggle with it. You get really good at snapping the exhale loose, setting it free, and then when you mastered that with the breath, and you can tell. So, for example, my inhale, doesn't matter how long the inhale is. Exhale is 1 or 2 seconds. You either let it go or you don't. Yeah. So letting the breath out slowly and gradually, a long exhale, that's a different exercise. I would teach that later, after we've learned to release the breath, then learn to control the exhale. But first, just get good at just letting go, just releasing. Saves us a lot of time and effort.
So the lengthening of the exhale is something, as far as I'm aware, that slows the heart rate down. So you would teach people to do that in maybe a situation of panic or something, or where would you?
Because when we breathe in, we trigger the sympathetic branch of the nervous system. When we exhale, we lean into the parasympathetic branch, rest and recover. So,
and doesn't it also depend on whereabouts in the body as well, like high in the chest, belly?
Yeah. So, a healthy person should be able to breathe fast, like a happy dog, for as long as you like. And it should be relaxed and easy. A healthy person should be able to breathe slow. So you should be able to breathe 60, 120, 180 breaths a minute. And you should be able to breathe 6 breaths a minute, 3 breaths a minute, 2 breaths a minute, 1 breath a minute. So a healthy person should be able to breathe fast, should be able to breathe slow. So you just practice and you get comfortable with slower and slower, faster and faster. You also have to breathe high in your chest, up under the collarbones, and low in the belly, down into the perineum. So you got to be able to breathe low, high, fast, slow, through the nose, through the mouth. And so you just drill and you play with those parameters. You keep expanding your skill, getting more and more comfortable with a wider and wider range of speed and location and volume, intensity. And you're going to be forced to confront everything that's in your way, psychologically, emotionally, or physiologically or structurally. The breath it'll bump you right into whatever it is you need to let go of, become conscious of, strengthen, release, or whatever. So yeah, just playing with your breath and the parameters, and you're on your way to uncovering and discovering a lot of stuff that you can heal and shift and change.
So something like the longer exhale, and you were talking then before about the is that something that triggers the parasympathetic nervous system? The longer exhale.
And triggers the vagus nerve, and through the vagus nerve, that parasympathetic. Now, if you're straining or forcing or tensing while you're making the exhale long, you're going to neutralize the benefit. So there has to be this issue of comfort. You can temporarily force yourself to overcome a limit, but you haven't made a permanent change in your system, and this is just a temporary thing. But if you gradually and gently work with your system, you can permanently, heal things and shift. So, yeah, it's when we play with the breathing, we're playing with our nervous system, and depending on what you want to accomplish, you're going to play in one direction or the other. And the comfort is a gauge. You know, we have to honor what's comfortable in us. But if we just train according to comfort, we'll never grow. So we all also have to train in the direction of challenge. So we train in the direction of comfort, and we train in the direction of challenge. And if you're honest with yourself, and if you're conscious, you know what's comfortable, and you know what's challenging. And so you can't hide from yourself. Can you get uno más uva de piña? Oh. Okay. Good. I'm going to get another pineapple juice here.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just coming back to this, the kind of the vagus nerve thing, because the vagus nerve is a pretty important nerve. And there was something in your book that suggested there's a relationship between the vagus nerve and mental health, or states of mental health. Like, can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, the vagus nerve is the biggest muscle in the body. Two branches. It's vagus. It's same root as vagabond. It wanders everywhere. And only up until 20 years ago or so, all medical scientists thought, this is how the brain controls all the organs and muscles and the diaphragm and the joints. But then they discovered that 80% of the information through the vagus nerve doesn't travel from the brain to the body. It travels from the body to the brain. And then they realized, when we consciously breathe diaphragmatically, or we use that ujjayi breath, that restricting of the throat they use in yoga, that we're stimulating the vagus nerve. So it gives us a way to hack into our nervous system and choose the signals that we send to the brain. Because many people could be breathing in a way that makes their body think that it's in danger. Literally unconscious breathing patterns that make our body feel like we're in danger. So we need to send signals to the brain that the ancient brain goes, wow, that felt good. I must be very safe. I must be okay. So we can trick the nervous system. And even in times of stress and pain, we can breathe in a way that makes our brain think that we're experiencing pleasure. So it helps us to tolerate some really intense situations just by regulating our breath.
Yeah.
And the science is like, wow, it's unarguable now. All the research, the polyvagal theory and all that connection stuff. Wow, it's like makes sense out of a lot of ancient yogic practices.
Yeah, and when you're relaxed, you have access to more mental resources to be able to respond properly to the situation anyway.
And you can move and flow, yeah.
Yeah. So I think one of the things I was reading was the research that suggests the vagus nerve is connected to your capacity to, I think it was the research by Sue Carter, suggests the activity of the vagal PNS system has a significant effects on your ability to trust, love, connect, bond, be intimate, communicate emotionally, and feel empathy. That's quite a big deal.
It is, but like, think about it. When you're in a beautiful state of pleasure, of peace, of enjoyment, of appreciation, your breathing has this unmistakable quality. You're probably not aware of how you're breathing because the beautiful feelings are getting all your attention. But someone observing and measuring your breath could make a correlation between the breathing quality and the breathing pattern and those beautiful feelings. So now we have a way to trigger those beautiful feelings. And it's exciting. I mean, it gives us a handle on things that we thought, we can't control certain things about us, but we can. So really exciting stuff around the vagus nerve. And it's just beginning. They're just scratching the surface. So in the next few years, the breakthroughs are going to be astounding as the science piles up and more research, more and more people practicing. Things are going to accelerate. It's very exciting.
It's pretty profound. I think it kind of brings me to one of the last things that I was wanting to mention was in your book. You talk about how the breath is your gateway to opening up the dimension of love within yourself, which it sounds like it's very much connected to this kind of vagal activity. And I like the way that you describe that.
Well, it's no accident that the lungs are wrapped around the heart.
Mm.
And when we breathe, we're putting our attention into our heart space. Naturally, automatically, we're focusing on the sensations of expansion in the chest, top to bottom, front to back, side to side. And as you're focusing on those feelings and sensations, you're becoming aware of your heart center. You're literally coming into your heart. And all we need to do in that case is just consciously focus on the qualities that we associate with the heart. Love and compassion and tolerance and patience and appreciation and gratitude. And wow, if you're focusing on those kind of energies while you're breathing, you're embodying those energies. You're breathing the quality of those emotions into the cells of your body, and it becomes part of who you are. And so it's a beautiful and really important practice. You know, shoosh. And it's unmistakable. You know, when we get into our heart, I mean, so many problems are solved. You know, and so many things are avoided if we can just come back to our heart, you know, and have some compassion for ourselves and others. You know, we're all doing the best we can at whatever our current level of development is. And so, you know, we need to breathe compassion for ourselves, breathe compassion for other people, and that's a heart practice. So,
yeah, that's a beautiful way to put it. So, off the back of that, then, I wonder if you have a favorite technique that you'd like to maybe guide people along with for this last few minutes.
Yeah, let's do just a little guided,
just a little practice.
So, you just focus on the tip of your nose, just breathing through the nose. Or if you're breathing through the mouth, you can focus on your lips and your tongue. But you want to feel the sensations of the air. When it first touches your nose or passes over your lips and your tongue, and you're just observing them and feeling them. What are the feelings when the breath comes in? What are the sensations? Where are they? And then when you breathe out, notice there are different sensations. Maybe the air is warmer. There are different feelings, and you're just observing. Notice what moves when you breathe. Does your chest expand? Does your belly expand? Where does the breath go? What does it touch? What muscles are you using? So we're just exploring the process of breathing. And once we're in tune with the breath, then you can begin to play with the breath. Expand the inhale a little bit more. Add a little extra stretch, which triggers a little deeper release, and you experience something like a sigh of relief. And do it very consciously and very deliberately. Take your time on the inhale. Pull in, add a little extra stretch, a little more fullness, and then snap the exhale loose, let the exhale go, and relax your shoulders and your neck. And focus on a feeling of pleasure. And then when you breathe in, realize that you're breathing in light, you're breathing in energy, you're breathing in life force. Imagine your favorite fragrance. Visualize something beautiful. Picture someone you love. And breathe in and strengthen those feelings in you. And then when you exhale, just let go and relax. And then invite energy with the inhale. Send the energy and the breath to every cell of your body, so it feels like your whole body is breathing. And then you snap the exhale loose, you dump the exhale out, you give yourself a sigh of relief, and you allow your whole body to melt and relax. You want to relax so much that the spaces between your cells open up. So then when you breathe in, the energy can get into all the cracks and crevices. So think about hard-packed desert soil. When it rains, the water just hits the soil and washes along the surface. But if you soften the soil, if you loosen the soil, when it rains, the water can penetrate the soil. So that's relaxation and breathing. If you're relaxing while you breathe, the energy in the breath will penetrate you, and you absorb that life force, that light, that energy. And you celebrate it, and you feel grateful to be alive during the inhale, welcome the aliveness, and then give yourself a sigh of pleasure on the exhale and feel grateful. It's just a conscious choice about what to do with our energy and what to focus on. And we can create miracles for ourselves. We can heal ourselves. We can take ourselves to the next level of our own personal evolution. It's just a matter of practice.
No, that's beautiful. That's I don't know if I've ever described an interview as beautiful before, but I would say that this one hit that mark. So thanks a lot.
Well, thank you. Thank you, brother.
Yeah. So if people want to learn and train with you, you have plenty of places, plenty of resources.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Go to breathmastery.com. And on Instagram, you'll find me at Dan Brule Official. I'm new to Instagram, but it's doing pretty good. And so I invite people to find me on Instagram. We're playing with that. It's a good way to stay in touch. Most recent breakthroughs and current teachings and understandings. And I'm on Facebook. You'll find me on Facebook also. Facebook, Instagram, and breathmastery.com.
Yeah, fantastic. And if you get a chance to buy his book, I would highly recommend it. I've got the Audible version. You know, this is something funny I wanted to say about the Audible version of the book. Every time I press play on it, like there's a part of my body that just remembers to breathe. It's like, okay, Dan's talking, so now it's probably time that I should breathe. So this is, for me, this is a great way to to get into it. Just to listen to talk about breathing.
Just what I hope for. Just what I hope for, that people will just remember to breathe. I love it. Thank you.
That's the one. So, yeah, fantastic. Well, thank you a lot, Dan. It's been a real pleasure speaking to you here. I'm really grateful for it. So,
thank you, Tom. Thank you so much.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you, everybody.
Take care. All right. Thank you, Dan. That was a fantastic thing to be a part of, a fantastic conversation to be in. And that little meditation at the end, very nice. So we covered a lot of things in that episode, and one of the things that I liked was the way that Dan talked about the pain and the breath, the relationship between the pain and the breath, and how he said that all pain is fear, and so you might as well go directly to the fear. And there's really a lot in this breathwork practice about kind of softening into fear, softening into pain through the breath, and like breathing into the specific area that's in pain, or breathing into the specific area where the tension is held by fear. And that's something that I feel is really such a valuable practice, and it comes across in the different types of breathing that we do, and in the on a few different levels. So one of the things that one of the methods that we talked about was the Buteyko method, and the Buteyko method is breath holding and breath retention. So if you want to practice the Buteyko method, one of the ways that I like to do this is take 2 breaths in, like so, snap out the exhale, just let everything release, and another one, and then hold the breath at the bottom. So you hold, and you can count as you do this without breathing in, and just relaxing into the sensations of holding the breath, and just see how long you can go for, and then start again. And you can do I do usually typically a count of 10 and then extend it up to 15, and then maybe try for 20 and see how long I can extend that breath retention for at the bottom. And one of the utilities of this kind of practice is that you're softening into the body's panic response, the body's anxiety response of, I don't have enough oxygen, what am I going to do? I need to breathe, and it's like, just wait. Maybe you don't need to breathe just yet. You can probably go longer than you think you can. And as you get past these kind of limitations, as this kind of physiological metaphor of you breaking through these breath limitations gets trained into your nervous system, your mind begins to kind of follow suit, and you might find yourself in a situation in life where it's like, this is a panic situation, I need to get out, but just wait, maybe I could do it a little bit longer. And you just gradually start to relax into the body's initial panic response, and you find you can almost always go a lot further than you think you can. So that's one of the benefits of the Buteyko method. One of the other things that it helps you deal with high levels of carbon dioxide, and Dan talked about the dilation of the vasodilation. So that allows everything to kind of open up and things to move freely. So the oxygen can get from the blood, can disbond from the hemoglobin and get into the cells, and things can move around. And you might try this if you have some kind of something going on with your sinuses. I get a lot of this sometimes, and it just really helps to kind of hold the breath. And after I get past the panic response, I can feel things begin to open up, and usually like 15-20 seconds something, I start to feel my nose, just things opening up and clearing on its own. It's really quite useful. So another one of the things that we talked about was the Wim Hof method. So the Wim Hof method is a combination of hyperoxygenation, so bringing in lots of oxygen into the body through this kind of followed by breath retention. And that's, again, the process of vasodilation, getting comfortable with high levels of carbon dioxide in the blood and in the body, and allowing things to move and flow. So that's really got two good components put together. And so the Wim Hof method can be used for lots of things. We use it a lot in the music mixes that we've got on the site, and it's really good for clarity, for creativity, for high energy, for after you do the Wim Hof method, to meditate into things is just, you can just relax straight into something. It's kind of like a reset button for the whole body. It really just clears things very deeply out. I use it a lot. And it's really, really useful. I also do the cold showers and the cold swimming, because it's just another way of resetting the body, and these kind of resetting rituals help you just come straight back into yourself in any one moment. So you're not kind of floating off in some narrative, and you establish like an authentic relationship with the reality of yourself as you manifest in each moment. So useful. That. What else? Coherent breathing. Coherent breathing is a very, very simple way to relax. You can use it to help yourself go to sleep, or you can use it to help yourself meditate. You can use it to kind of distract your mind and keep it focused on one thing, like a body-related thing. And so coherent breathing is basically inhale on a count of 4. Do this, tap my finger along to this. Inhale on a count of 4. Exhale. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. Nice, relaxing. It's just a good way to kind of bring yourself down into the moment. And if you can breathe all the way in, filling up slowly, it's just something about that kind of rhythm that helps you really drop into the body and like allows tension to kind of melt away. You can also then expand that to what's called box breathing, which is another way to... Coherent breathing is kind of like, it's inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. So it's kind of like an up and down motion, if you want to give it a motion, whereas box breathing goes around in this kind of well, a box shape. So you inhale on 4, you might do it something like this. Inhale on 4. Hold. Exhale. Hold. Inhale. Hold. Exhale. Hold. They talked about this in this book, Stealing Fire. Apparently the Navy SEALs use this box breathing to kind of get them very present and get them in the moment. And so, yeah, it's a really, really good way just to reconnect with this kind of rhythm and this pace when all of the chaos is flying around. The general life chaos is just manifesting itself relentlessly around you. It's like you could focus on this breath and you could bring yourself back into the middle and chill. Because as you relax, you have access to more mental resources. So that's really useful because you want mental resources if you're facing new things, which you probably are daily. I mean, every situation has some new element. There's nothing that's necessarily repeating itself. Maybe it looks the same, but you know, when you open the door for newness, that's when you open the door for creativity and spontaneity and things like that, which can help move you forward in time in a good way. So there we go. So the other good place to find your center and to practice finding your middle in is when you do this kind of hyperventilation and you get these body sensations of tingling and you get this tetany where the hand starts to do this and the body starts to tense up, and it's like, how much can I relax into these really intense situations? And just like Dan was saying, it's like you don't want to be afraid of your own feelings. You don't want to be afraid of your own body. You don't want to be afraid of this thing that you are necessarily. You want to respect it because it has potential to be all kinds of things in any kind of direction, but to be afraid of the things that you feel, it's like you really want to get more in touch with that and integrate those things properly. And as you practice this with this kind of physiological metaphor of the breath, so you're practicing feeling okay while the body is in chaos, it's like, think of all the situations you can apply that to when you're feeling stuff, or when you're triggered, when you're reacting and you have enough space around you just to relax and feel what's going on without kind of pushing it away and going into like an opposite reaction. So to be able to train to feel more relaxed during these during this bodily tension and during these uncomfortable feelings is really, really valuable. Connected breathing. Connected breathing was another thing. That's one of Dan's favorite, and it's becoming one of mine as well, where you just inhale and you just relax and let everything melt on the exhale and just falls out. And like Dan was saying, you let the tension that you bring in on the inhale with this kind of doubly long inhale and gravity do the work. So just let everything fall out. And as I think you mentioned this in the first one, as you let go of the breath, you let go of pain, let go of fear. Your body, you train your body to do that. And so that one's a really useful one, just to kind of get people relaxed and get people letting go, like this physiological metaphor of letting go. And it releases stuff. It just releases stuff on its own. So it's really, and you don't necessarily need to understand the stuff that's going on, but it's training your nervous system to release and relax, and you're sending those messages to your nervous system to release and relax. And as it gets used to doing that, that picks up its own momentum as you move through life. The other thing he talked about was yawning, which is great. So yawning, you're always taught when you're a kid you shouldn't yawn. Like it's rude to yawn. It's rude to yawn. If somebody's talking to you and you yawn and they look at you and they're like, "What, are you bored with what I'm saying?" and they start to get offended. So this is a good turnaround because yawning feels great. And the more I talk about yawning and say the word yawn, you're probably getting ready for a nice big yawn right now. I know I am. Although I did quite a bit of yawning earlier, conscious yawning,
which is good. And Dan talks about combining it with a sigh of relief. So I could keep doing that all day. I don't want to get lost down a yawn vortex right now, but yawning is really good. It just rebalances so many things, and I think that's an interesting exercise he mentions, where you can meditate on how you feel before you yawn. You can have a bit of a yawning sesh and then meditate afterwards and see how you feel after you've yawned and make the comparison. I did this just earlier and it was like, wow, I feel really good. So I'm going to yawn more and more often. I'm going to encourage more people around me to yawn at the same time. So the camera cut out a little bit there. So let's pick it up again with yawning. Yawning is good. Any time of day, make yawning part of your practice and feel better about lots of things all the time. That's fair. Another thing he talked about was D-reflexive breathing. And D-reflexive breathing is when you exhale on the inhale and you inhale on the exhale. Or at least you imagine you're doing the opposite thing to the thing that you're actually doing. So it would be a bit like this. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Pretty nice, that one. The effect is one of, Dan mentions, softening the ego, so softening this hardness that stops you from connecting with the world around you and lets things move through you and allows you to basically connect with more stuff, which is good. You can temporarily force yourself to overcome a limit, but if you want to make a more permanent change, that's something that you have to honor what's comfortable inside of you. And it's very relatable if you ever try to force yourself to go on a diet or do something that you aren't really ready to do. That you can do it in the short term, and maybe that's useful because sometimes you have to do that. But if you want a more kind of a permanent, lasting change, it's better to take things a little bit more gradually and notice where you are and keep one of your feet in the known and the order and the comfort. And then he works with this concept a lot, which I heard another relationship counselor talk about, and this support and challenge, where you have enough support in the area so people feel safe and can relax, and then you throw in a few extra bits of challenge just to stimulate the growth. And this is one of the things that he talks about when he says you honor where you're comfortable at, honor what's in your kind of comfort zone, and then throw in a few little bits of challenge and soften into those really intense breaths and the things that are going to stimulate a little bit of growth within you. So very powerful concepts, those. Another thing he talked about was the vagus nerve, and the vagus nerve's link to mental health, and how, well, the vagus nerve is the really important nerve that links the guts up to the brain and tells the brain what's going on in the body. And he said that in times of pain, if you can breathe in a way that tricks the nervous system into feeling relaxed, then the brain gets into a very beautiful kind of state. And you don't need to, a lot of the pain or the unnecessary pain is caused by tension around the intensity of the thing that's happening. And so the breath work and the more relaxing breaths that work with the parasympathetic nervous system are the ones that really help the body to relax very, very deeply in times of stress and in times of pain. And that's so useful. And one of the things he mentioned, or I think I mentioned, one of us mentioned it, was this research by Sue Carter where she talks about the vagus nerve and the parasympathetic nervous system being very closely linked to people's ability to love and to feel more connection and trust and empathy and communicate emotionally. And so these things are super, super important. And it makes a lot more sense. If you have the ability to relax, then you have access to more of these mental resources. And if you have access to more mental resources, then you're going to be able to deal with new and uncomfortable and somewhat potentially disorienting situations with a greater degree of competence and skill and proficiency, which will be good, and the outcomes are likely to be better. And so, yeah, if you're doing things from tension, you're probably going to create more tension in the results. And if you're doing things from a place of relaxation, the likelihood that it's a better bet. At least it's a better bet. You're more likely to be able to think clearly to solve the problem, or to feel into what the thing is and be moved to solve it in a certain kind of way. And yeah, so then that meditation at the end was a very nice bridge to that. It's like, how do you relax properly and just breathe yourself into a beautiful state, some kind of beautiful state that leaves you feeling nice and relaxed, and that's accessible to you at any time, give or take. Obviously there's greater degrees of difficulty in finding a way to get to that beautiful state, but these states are really valuable if you're trying to live with some kind of intention. It's like, I want to live in a good way. This relates back to what George is saying, and my ability to relax into this unknown, which is really terrifying. If you can really spin up a whole lot of stories, and there's no shortage of catastrophes in history that you could look at and say, wow, man, things are really terrifying. Or you could breathe and relax and concede that you've no idea what's going on, yet your ability to relax into that is going to help it unfold through you. I think that's about it. So if you want to catch more of Dan, if you want to find out more about what Dan's doing, you can go to breathmastery.com. You can find him at Dan Brule Official on Instagram. He's also on Facebook. He's a very communicative guy, a really nice guy. So yeah, I would encourage you to go and look up that if you're interested in the breath, and if you're interested in practicing more and learning the depths that you can go to within yourself just by learning more about this kind of language of breath. The other thing I would say is that if you're interested in going deeper into some breath work experiences, we have a lot on perceptionarchitecture.com in the IDB page. So if you scroll down a little bit, you will find there are musical mixes with breathwork overlaid and instructions on how to do them. Some of them are more introspective and journey-like, and some of them are more just quick, more intense things for increased energy, for increased creativity, more clarity, and they're really good. Like they get a lot of good feedback, and I know they're good because I made them for myself, and I made them as good as I could for me. So I enjoy them a lot, and I use them regularly. So if you want to go and try them out, you can find them on the IDB page of perceptionarchitecture.com. So thanks very much for listening. Thanks very much for your time, for your ears and your attention, and I hope you found this useful, and I'll see you in the next one.
Perception Architecture Radio.